Starbreach gamers, thanks for tuning in. In this video we're going to be talking about the order dice system of the game. As mentioned in previous videos, this game is driven by a order dice mechanic. For those who are not familiar with the order dice mechanic, it basically involves each player bringing one die that is uniform in color to a set per model. And so you're going to bring that whole set of uniform colored dice to a game, and your opponent's going to do the same. The dice that you bring and your opponent brings should be same weight, same size, relatively same feel. The only difference is that they need to be a different color. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take all of those dice, you'll put them in a bag, and then you pull dice during the order dice phase, which we're talking about here. And you will assign one of 6 orders to any one of your soldiers who is currently free and able to do so. What we're going to talk about today is just what those orders are exactly and how they impact gameplay. The order dice phase is definitely the meat of the game, and that's where a lot of the action takes place. Just to kind of give an overview before we go into in-game scenarios here, we've got number 1 here, and when you give 1, it's a down order. Number 2 is the mend order. Number 3 is the cover fire order. Number 4 is a fire order. Number 5 is an advance order, and number 6 is an assault or run order, I should say, a run order, and sometimes an assault. So let's get to it. So the first order we're going to look at here is the down order. Down order is number 1 on a die, and let's say I'm in a game here in the middle of a turn. We're pulling the next order to see who's going to take an action. I pull my dice, hey, and for whatever reason I want this soldier to go down. I'm going to place 1 face up, and down is the most simple order probably in the game. It just involves the soldier basically hitting the dirt, stopping right where they're at, and then gaining a +2 initiative modifier to their dodge rolls when being fired at. Down can also be used when you are wanting to use certain items. Down is also used to secure certain objectives on the table within scenarios, or when you're looking at illicit caches in a campaign setting. And down is also used as a reaction. So, for example, if this wasn't my die, I didn't pull, and I pulled an opponent's die, and the opponent decides to give a fire order on this soldier here, who happens to be wide open, no cover, I may decide that it would be better for me to respond to the fire order by going down. So that means that I'll pull the die intentionally, I'll pull it right out of the dice bag, my own die, and then I'll place this soldier in a down. And so a down can be a reaction to a opponent's fire order or cover fire order. Another order that I can give my soldier is the mend order. The mend order is primarily useful for a soldier who is significantly wounded, and the mechanics are quite simple. All I'm going to do is, like if I pulled a dice, hey, this is mine, and I want to give this soldier a mend order. Perhaps he's close to death, he's about to die, I need to heal him up. Or maybe he's a medic model and I want to heal another model within the range of the field medicine alpha skill. Then I'm going to give a mend. Mend is number 2. And mend is quite simple. It's literally a 1-for-1 d6 roll. So however many, whatever value I get on a d6 roll, I mend that much health value. So like in this example, I would roll a d6 and I'd gain 2 health. Probably not super beneficial to my soldier for a roll like that, but might keep him alive throughout the rest of the round, at least into the special actions phase when I might need him, or into the next turn. So that's mend. So where 1 and 2, number 1 and 2 on the dice are kind of non-movement orders, down and mend. Number 3 and 4 are ranged attack orders. So number 3 is a cover fire order. And cover fire is a unique order type in that you are going to make a fire order, but you're not going to choose one particular model. Instead, you're going to choose an area. You're going to choose basically a spot on the table, and then anywhere within 2 inches of that particular target spot, the models that are within that area are going to come under fire. And that's friend or foe. So in this scenario here, I might draw my dice, and I see these let's say these are Uruk warlords here. They're all kind of clumped up together. And I'm going to say, let's go for a cover fire. So I would give it the order number 3. And then I would choose anywhere on the board here. And I'm going to choose probably like this spot here where they're all within 2 inches of that range. And then I'm going to, execute some attack rolls. So to do that, I would move over kind of to here. So let's move over here, and I've already got this scenario set up here. These dice here that I have set up are just kind of keeping in mind initiative values for everybody. So this is my Coven Empire soldier. We're going to assume he has initiative value of 4. Then the Uruk warlord who's out in the open here, his initiative is going to be 4. This guy's initiative here is actually going to be 6 because he's currently behind this hardcover. And this guy's initiative is going to be currently 8 because not only is he behind hardcover, but he's also down. As you can see, number 1 gives him down. So he's well under cover. So the rolling mechanic is quite simple. All I'm going to do here is I'm going to roll, let's say, my attack dice here for my Coven soldier. That is a awful roll of 3. And I'm going to add his initiative here. And let's say that's going against the first guy. Then he's going to roll and dodge. He's definitely going to be just fine. I should mention, since this is a cover order, that cover fire order, that this guy's initiative 4 is technically a initiative 2 right now because of that cover fire order. It's a -2 to my initiative. It's kind of a crazy shot or some sort of inaccurate weapon that's got a big damage blast area, but not really too precise for hitting. So that one's going to be a miss for sure. Then I'd roll for the second guy. Okay, not too bad. That's an average of 7. Plus 2 is going to be 9. That's going to be tough to beat with a 6 here. Yeah, wonderful roll, defensive roll of 10. Okay, there we go. And then the last guy. Wow. Okay, I got to change these yellow dice out. I'm rolling a 4 here. Plus 2 is 6. That's going to be pretty much impossible to hit this guy who's currently down. So rolling is not going to be useful. So that is a miss. Okay, so that's cover fire. Now, if I happen to hit, I would be applying wounds, and we'll talk about that during the fire phase. We'll give an example of that. But also in the cover fire phase, if one of these soldiers were to get hit, that means that he would also automatically go down. Basically, cover fire causes soldiers to go down. So yeah, that's how that works. The next order, and probably one of the most popular orders you're going to see in your games, is the fire order. So if I drew a dice from a dice bag, I would place the dice number 4, and that means fire. I'm going to choose only one target using my gun here. I'm going to choose a target point here, one of these guys, and then I'm going to fire my weapon. Some weapons, it's important to note now, always fire as if they were cover fire. That's because they have large areas of damage, like a high explosives weapon or some sort of crazy heavy chain gun, all sorts of fantasy sci-fi battle weapon action. But in this case, we're just looking at a normal rifle here. So this is not going to count as be treated as a cover fire order, just a normal fire order. I'm going to choose my target here. He's within range. And and then we're going to go over here and make some rolls. So I already have it set up. My target is initiative 4. I'm initiative 4 as well. Now let's say I am within half range of the weapon. That means that that my range, my weapon is a certain range, and the target model is within half of that range. I'm going to actually get a bonus to that, and so I'm going to add the bonus to my initiative. And that's pretty much all the modifiers in this situation. Pretty straightforward. We're going to roll to hit. Oh, that is a great roll of 11. That's going to be wonderful. I think that's going to be a hit for sure. Yep, looking good. So we got a 5 plus 4, that's 9. So in this circumstance, what that means is my attack hit. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to not worry about the defensive roll anymore, the dodge roll, and I'm not going to worry about my initiative anymore. All I'm going to worry about is the value that I rolled on the dice. So in this case, I rolled quite a high value of 11. Now what I would do at this point is I would apply any wound modifiers my weapon might have. Maybe it's like an armor piercings type of weapon, heavy explosives type of weapon. In this case, it's just a rifle. I'm not going to add any particular wound mods at this time. And then I'm going to take that total amount, this 11 here, and I'm going to apply it first to the enemy soldier's armor and then to his health value. So in this case, if this soldier happened to have armor value, let's say of 5, that means that that six wounds would be going towards his health. If he had a health of 9, let's say he'd have a remaining health of 3 in his profile. So yeah, that's how fire order works. It's pretty straightforward. So another way that we use the fire order in a game of Star Breach is trying to attempt to cast psychic abilities. In the Star Breach kind of multiverse and many different sci-fi franchises and motifs, there's a lot of psychic powers and powerful kind of alien abilities, and in this game is no exception. We use the fire order, placing a 4 up next to our soldier. In the same way as we would to make a ranged attack, we are able to now cast a psychic ability. If this was a psychic, I would be able to say, okay, at this point I'm going to attempt to cast one of my psychic abilities. There are a few different schools in the Star Breach universe, lots of fun to look at, all the different ways that you can kind of manipulate the game. There's aggro spells, there's kind of defensive buff spells, there's hex spells, there's spells that kind of manipulate mechanics of the game, all sorts of really cool psychic abilities that can be found in the Psychic Schools PDF. But basically all that, how I would actually try to attempt to cast a psychic ability would be simply rolling 2d6, adding my initiative modifier and putting that up against the ability's kind of power level. Every ability has a power level, so I'm going to roll 2d6. I'll add the soldier's initiative. If that meets or exceeds the power level, the psychic ability gets cast. If I don't meet that with the roll as well as my initiative buff, then unfortunately the psychic ability fails to go off and the soldier actually takes a wound. So there's positives, negatives to trying to attempt a psychic ability. Some are much easier to cast, some are much more difficult, but have better rewards. So that's another way that we use the fire order. So if order 1 and 2 are non-aggressive stationary orders, if orders 3 and 4 are ranged attack orders, then orders 5 and 6 are your movement type orders. Starting with order number 5, if I pulled my dice, I'd put down 5, and that is an advance order. Advance is cool. It's a combination of movement and shooting, common to many different types of war games. And basically, it's as simple as moving my soldier in inches up to his maximum inch value movement listed in his profile. So in this case, most soldiers are anywhere between 5, 6, 7 inches. Let's say this soldier has a movement value of 5 inches. I would move up to 5 inches on the board. So let's say maybe something like this. And then what I'd get to do is I would get to make a fire order, if I so choose. In making the fire order, I am going to have a -1 to my initiative when making attack rolls. And if I use a fire order to cast a psychic ability, like we just talked about, that's also going to be a -1 to my initiative for trying to attempt to cast a psychic ability. So moving and shooting does come with a negative. You get maybe a better position, you get more forward movement on the board, but when you attempt to fire afterwards, it can negatively impact your attempt at an attack roll. So yeah, that's advanced, pretty simple. Let me move him back here now, and we're just going to keep moving forward here and chat about the assault or the run order. That's number 6. Run order is quite simple. Basically, you're going to be able to double the movement value of the soldier. So if you had a movement value of, I said, 5 inches, then he's now going to have a movement value of 10 inches, and that means that he can run anywhere on the board. Run also gives me the ability to do cool things like maybe run over a piece of terrain that's like not too crazy to jump over. It also involves me scaling up walls, like I said, going over barricades, climbing fences, climbing up ladders. Run basically helps me do any sort of advanced movement that would be plausible on the field of battle. Run can also be used for an assault. So I've mentioned assault a couple times. Basically all that does is that just means that I'm going to use the run order to come into base-to-base contact with an enemy model. And then we're going to immediately go into a round of close combat by doing so. So in this case, let's say I run up to this guy here, and we'd enter close combat. Now, before I'd actually get to do that, I should mention that the opponent will know who I'm attacking, and he'll have the opportunity to respond with potentially a fire order. So before I actually move my model, so let's go back to kind of where I was here. Before I actually move my model, I might say, hey, I'm going to assault this guy, and because he has no order dice, my opponent may then choose to pull an order dice out of the dice bag, give it to his soldier, and say, okay, I'm going to fire as a reaction to the run order. And that does come with a negative initiative modifier. He's going to attempt to kind of gun my guy down and stop him before he makes his assault. Let's say in this case that doesn't happen, and I come into base-to-base combat, we would go into a close combat phase. Let's check that out. So a close combat phase is not unlike a rolling for an attack roll and a dodge roll, but these are close combat rolls. You're going to add each soldier's initiative value, current initiative value. Those can be modified in close combat, particularly with certain weapons. Certain weapons are kind of close combat oriented, like a secondary weapons such as like a chainsaw or some sort of like shotgun or like a pistol. These have different types of initiative modifiers, positive, negative, for soldiers. In this case, we're going to say there's no initiative modifiers. We just got our base initiative value, so we're going to roll 2d6. So this is going to be our aggressor's kind of combat roll here. Rolled a roll of 8, and our defender's combat roll here. He rolled a 6. So in this scenario, it's a little different. At this point now, it's different than rolling for like wounds. If it was a hit, in this case, one of these guys is going to take wounds, and in this case, it's going to be my defender who was assaulted. He is going to just take the difference of the total directly against his health. So we're not worrying about armor, we're not worrying about anything like that. He's just going to immediately take the difference plus any wound modifiers that the weapon might grant, such as, like I said, the chainsword. And then he's going to take those wounds directly to his health. So in this case, because the difference is a difference of 2, he'll take 2 wounds directly against his health, and then at that point in close combat, we kind of get a choice. We get to do some interesting things. So if we move kind of back over to these models here, because my aggressor 1, I have an opportunity to do a few different things. I can either continue fighting in close combat, so I can say, okay, let's go for another round, and by doing so, I actually get to negate the losing soldier, so the defending soldier here, his initiative modifier. So he's rolling 2d6 with no initiative modifiers whatsoever. That's pretty sweet. So you can kind of grind down a guy that you're fighting in close combat and hopefully get him dead. Another thing that I can do is I can step back up to 2 inches. If I feel for whatever reason it's not advantageous for me to stay in close combat. Maybe I have another guy who's going to come in and fight close combat, or maybe I have plans, I don't know. There's many different tactical reasons for that. Another thing that I can do is I can actually push my defensive model back 2 inches as well, and that can be really useful when you're defending an objective. It can also be extremely useful when you're up in like a high area and you're up against a railing and you actually get to push the defending model over the edge, because when you do that, as you know in the Starfleet rules, they take damage for falling, so that's pretty sweet. So yeah, a few different options when it comes to close combat and resolving close combat as the winner, so that's cool. And you know what? I think that is it for all of our orders, everything I wanted to say. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the comments or find me online anywhere. I'll be happy to help you. Thanks for watching this video, and thank you for playing Starbreach. I hope you have many enjoyable games.